Hey everyone, it is Ellen from Advocate of Soul. And as many of you know, I love the human journey and I love the human story. And it has just been wonderful these last couple of years just to be able to talk to people from all over the globe, all over the world, about the things they've been through, the struggles, to the triumphs, to the work that they're doing, to how they're shining their unique light. And today it's just such a pleasure to have you all here again, tuning in with me. And I have got Lou, I believe that's how you pronounce your name, Lulu Clancy. And it turns out she's from England and I'm in England right now. So this is working perfectly. And just some things about Lou that I've gotten to know her following her on Instagram is her music gift, the gift that she has to create sound. And I'm really looking forward to diving deep in that and understanding how we can really learn from that because we've got so much noise going on all around us. But there's something about coming back to the innate sounds of our soul, the innate sounds of Mother Nature, and the innate sounds that we all carry within ourselves collectively. And so, Lou, it is just a joy and an honor to have you here. I saw that you call yourself, what is it, not a nonconformist, what do you,
Oh, unconventionalist,
yes,
because I don't think there's an
unconventionalist.
unconventionalist word.
So I would love to know your journey, what it's looked like, because you do sound healing, you do sound baths and women's circles and all. So what brought you to where you are today? Just share your story with us.
Oh, well, yeah, I was born in West London. Uh, sort of, as a kid, I always knew that the town wasn't for me. I just felt extremely disconnected, generally, actually disconnected. I mean, without going too much in it, but my family background was quite dysfunctional, and was brought up with my grandparents, which was wonderful. It was sort of my little oases of happiness with their love and nurturing. But I had a bumpy ride in childhood in West London, and I guess always felt, yeah, not of this place, not of this earth. And I never could really understand it or 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 make the join the dots with it, uh, until very recently, actually. But with this heavy feeling of disconnect and uh, I guess it's like not feeling at home anywhere. Where is my home? Um, so yeah, that feeling of dispossession and kind of just drifting. Um, but as a teenager, I started, well, earlier than teens, I started to really respond to music and the arts, and wasn't particularly um, great at academia. Um, and that's another thing that makes sense now because I've been diagnosed with the ADHD. So the sort of very formula of schooling, institutionalized schooling never suited me. But again, back in the day, I was just completely at odds with myself. Where do I fit? Where is my home? I don't feel like I'm part of this existence, and the arts were extremely important to me. They allowed me to sort of grasp something quite tangible. Um, so yeah, and I was quite a distressed, um, very confused teenager. Teenagers always have, or very often have, huge difficulties trying to find their way in the world. I was no different. But I guess with the layers of trauma from my childhood and this disconnect and disjointed uh, feeling, the arts were my salvation in a way. They were my refuge. So I was heavily involved with drama, and theatre studies, and I was at the Questors Theatre in Ealing as a young teenager, exploring improvisation, which again just makes so much sense to me because again with my ADHD processing, I couldn't remember scripts, which is
Yes.
really important if you want to go into acting.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so frustrated with myself because I was actually considering going to drama school, a central school, or RADA or somewhere. That's where I was beginning to, head for. And my school were completely behind me and supporting me. But I realised I couldn't cut the mustard, you know. So I enjoyed the improvisations and really started to come out of my shell in those moments at the theatre, exploring with other like-minded teenagers who are all going through the hormonal, chaotic, what is this life meant to be, kind of thing. Um, and exploring the ego because it's really important to be creative and to have the ego there so that you're kind of really pushing yourself and pushing yourself as a product actually. If you're going to be an actor or a singer or a musician as such, whether we like it or not, there is that sort of branding that you have to bring to that. So yeah, the testing of ego and who am I, and it was probably quite a horror, really. But yeah, so that was that, and then I realised that drama was not to be. So I instinctively thought, well, okay, I better be self-sufficient and I better be doing something that really hits my soul. So I was singing from an 11-year-old actually. My father is a singer or was a singer. And I really sort of looked up to him in that capacity as a singer. He was quite captivating, actually, watching him sing, and he had this just beautiful, angelic voice. And I just wanted to convey that kind of communication that he had, and realize that singing actually was my proper soul connection with the earth and with this existence. So I just went the path of singer-songwriter, back in the 80s, singing, singer-songwriting, yeah, movement was really big. So I'd be wandering around finding gigs with a guitar and, just rock up to wherever. And yeah, back in the day was the Mean Fiddler. That was quite a big place to play. Don't even know if it exists now. Probably not.
I don't know. Because I'm sure that there's going to be people watching that go, I remember that place.
Yeah, yeah, and the Irish roots. My father's side are Clancy's, so we come from Western Ireland Republic, and I just felt this very deep sense of the Celtic connection felt very strong with me. Weirdly, more so than my mother's side that are Italian, I felt much more spiritually connected to the Celts and the Gaelic speaking countries. So I used to sort of hone my craft as a singer in Acton and Cricklewood and Kilburn, singing the old pubs, which was quite a revelation, I have to
I'm
say.
sure. So I
You know, this 16-year-old, 18-year
yes.
old rocking up to some sort of like rough looking pub and playing music and
Wow.
but it was lovely. It was I felt in a weird way at home in the community in
Mhm.
Kilburn and around those areas in the Irish quarters. Um, so yeah, that's how I began really concentrating on my my singing career and how I might go about that. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've mentioned a lot in that moment, and I want to just go back. You said, that your childhood was a little bit rough. There was roughness within your childhood. And as I was listening to your journey, I could feel the resilience, though. There was a resilience and a bravery that came from that too, to just go into a pub and sing or to try this over here, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that can get stuck back there in fear. What caused you to move past the stuff you've been through? Like what did that look like to embrace the arts, to embrace the soul?
I think it's that for me, the arts, but personally, obviously as a vocalist, as a singer, um, I'm connecting my communication out through my voice, and it's in my body. I'm embodying something in word and in feeling and emotion. It's a storytelling of sorts, even if it has no words. It's a story of oneself, and one can bring texture and clarity to that story by knowing what it is you're conveying. So you're feeling what's coming through. And I think as a child, um, uh, a lot of stuff was done to me and my body, where I had no control of that. And I didn't. It's actually coming to me as we're talking. Weirdly, is that I guess I found control finally in my body and how I'm embodying a story, because I do move a lot. I love moving as well. But my voice is being heard. Um, and I'm using my own body, my own voice through it. So there is quite a profound healing in that. Quite often I would find my life so chaotic with my head full of ruminating and trying to process um, incidents that had happened to me as a kid, and emotionally holding so much and not being able to speak or be heard, or um, not to be safe actually to be heard. Yeah. So I just was a very quiet child, an extremely introverted child. Was very mute, actually, selective mute. And that was just my way of protection. But by singing, I
Mm.
could be that extrovert. Nobody would know that I was anything but. And I could actually I would claim my space on the platform or the stage or wherever I was. And suddenly I was transported. When I sing, I am transported somewhere else. I'm actually very unaware of other people a lot of the time, because I go into a sort of, well, I would call it actually a sort of sacred space. It's a really sacred space. Um, so yeah, that was my refuge and my happy place. Although building up to those performances, I wouldn't be able to, at the time when I was a younger singer, I wouldn't know how to harness all that nerve energy and the adrenaline and the all the sort of oh my gosh, can I come up with the goods? You know, this is a performance. I have to do my best. You know, there's nothing that can be. Um, yeah, you've just got. Sorry, that's my dog snoring. You've just got to be on it. And what if I can't be on it? You know, what if I have a really crap gig? You know, or whatever. And I would really beat myself up. And weeks before, and days before, and hours before, I would be in a total mess. I would be absolutely um, just really distressed. And then I'd say to myself, well, you know, why the heck am I doing this to myself? And I've heard a lot of artists, you know, performers say exactly the same. You know, why the heck am I doing this? And that awful fear of what if I get stage fright? You know, all these, you know, the horrors all would literally fall upon me. The worst case scenarios would fall on me. But then as soon as I got on the stage, yeah, I'd have a few moments, and I still do have a few moments of, uh-oh, you know, I'm adjusting to this space and other energies, you know, watching and listening. But then I just go into this beautiful, beautiful, oblivious space, actually. Um, so yeah, I think fundamentally I found singing so therapeutic for my own healing.
Mm.
Um, because I was using my own voice and my own body, and also singer songwriting. I wouldn't say I was the best songwriter. You know, the inspiration would be quite challenging to find. Um, but the process of performing and collaborating with others was just so delightful. Um, and yeah, I think I was destined. You know, that point of, well, you know, we don't want whoever the master there or the mistress up there, you know, is source was saying, well, you know, you have a process that will not accommodate drama, or you know, your skills and talents will not accommodate going this direction. So here you go, go down here. And it took me a while to recognize that, yeah, it's a gift that needs to be shared. If we've got gifts, it's good to share them. Um, so
Yes.
that's I think where where I'm sort of, yeah.
It's ironic because I'm a musician, and I play a variety of different instruments and things, and a lot of people don't know that about me. But
No.
and I was, raised in the church, and so I did a lot of like church music, right? So I was learning how to play, and I remember I would have that same initial nervousness. You come out, and it's interesting. The ruminations were always the worst case scenarios of like of what could happen, the piano falling over, me, getting sick, whatever it is. And you know what? None of that ever happened. None of it. But I also I wonder if sometimes, anger can be a fuel, right?
Oh
Anger
gosh, yeah.
fuel us and channel us in a direction if it's done well. If I don't mean just popping off whatever, but if you're channeling your anger, it can really create a magical energy that's unreal. And I just wonder
Totally.
if maybe the ruminations and the things that I ruminated, which were wow,
Yeah,
were fuel.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm learning and this again is quite a recent revelation, probably in the last 5 years, but I'm beginning to really appreciate it, is that I don't really agree with positive and negative experiences. Everything has its place and timing in our lives. And of course, trauma needs to be respected and it's valid and it's validated. But I also think that anything that causes us distress, disharmony, anger, rage, frustration, anything that causes us the challenges within oneself, can be channeled into positivity. And that's the secret. The secret is not to be stuck in victimhood. Mm-hmm. The victimhood has its place, and being a victim or abused has its place. And we have to respect that process within ourselves. But I also believe that there is a time where that can be shifted if we allow it to be shifted into something very, very beautiful and positive. Because sitting in all that, a huge knot of mess, that's really quite uncomfortable. You know, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, if you can sleep well, will just deteriorate our soul, our spirit, our energy, our body. It will come out in some way or form. That's my genuine belief. If it's just stuck, then that can create huge issues later down the line, or not later down the line, very soon. And I think, you know, our bodies are important to us. I believe we are souls in a body. You know, this is our vehicle. This is, you know, what we use to be here. But it also needs respect and love and kindness and compassion. And our challenging experiences and emotions are part and parcel of where we've come from, where we are now, and what we will move with in the future. And if it's all huge baggage and heavy, then it's going to be more difficult to move forward. So I agree. It's channeling that. It's actually quite empowering, I'd say. You know, and we don't all have to be amazing artists and musicians and singers and what have you. Creativity. I mean, we are born from creativity. We creation made us, you know. So we are innately creative in some way or form, whether we recognize it or not. And we don't have to have great works of art that we create, or, you know, make amazing music, or sculpt the most beautiful, you know, piece of art. But it's the process of doing something creative, which is absolutely wonderful, and it's really, really therapeutic. So I really sort of invite those who think that they can't.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't do math. You know, I definitely can't do and a lot of people can't. But we can gain confidence in using the essential for maths to function daily with what we need. In art, we can all experiment and explore and just play. You know, a lot of, I think, people generally, but also trauma, people that are holding a lot of trauma, lose their sense of play, lose their sense of playfulness and joy from that process. And if we could just strip away all the, you know, the critic in the head going, oh, you're rubbish at that, don't even attempt it. You know, oh, that's going to be crap. You know, why even try it? I'll challenge that inner narrative and go, hey, hang on a minute. I want to play. I want to have some playfulness and just enjoy the moment, not the end product. Not the end product. It doesn't matter about the end product. It's being in the moment, exploring something that is possibly a bit challenging and making things a little uncomfortable. You know, you're out of your comfort zone slightly. But what's the worst thing that could happen?
The piano tips over. Yes.
Yeah, or a guitar string pings,
Yes.
or you know, your art piece might not look as you'd sort of envisaged, but it does it really matter? You know, if you want to learn to play violin or flute or just pick it up, do it in your own time and in your own space, and give it a go. I think we just all, I don't know whether it's just what we're conditioned. Uh, I don't know. Yeah, we all have our place. We're conditioned to have our place in society, and what roles we or what roles we're expected to be. But there's a lot of, I don't know, let's keep in our boxes and like let's be there. And I think exploration, trying something a bit new and different, it would be quite surprising how wonderful that experience is. It might lead into something else and you might leave that and then go on to something else. But the journey is just wonderful if you allow it.
Oh, you are something that really is dear in my heart. The whole time you've been talking, probably for like the last 10 minutes, I've just keep getting the word imagination, imagination, and imagination. And I would love it if you could just speak to the idea of imagination, because it feels like that is something that children innately have, and they create these stories and they go out and they do all these things, and they're, you know, fighting big bag monsters in the magic woods, and the mushrooms talking, and these things, you know, all these different things, and their imaginations are just going so much so that they're creating such a beautiful space around about them. But as we get older, or trauma or conditioning or expectations try to steal the imagination. Can you talk about your process of, because I'm imagining that you were probably an imagination child at the beginning, and you know, and you've had your journey in that. So could you share a little bit about that?
Well, I think what I remember as a child was I had a very vivid imagination and all my senses were working overtime. So I would, and I was a only child for a long time. So I was 9 until my half brother came along. So, and I don't remember actually being interacted with as a child. So I don't even remember stories told to me or anything. So I made my own world. I had my own imaginary friend who met me at the corner of the staircase at my grandparents' house. It was a slightly bigger stair. It went into a sort of triangular shape as it curved around to the landing, and we used to sit there and used to talk, and I'd be completely enthralled with this young imaginary boy. Could have only been 3, 4, 5, around that age. And then I would also play in my grandparents' den. It was basically a sort of an extension of their house that they called the den. Not quite a conservatory, but it was an extra sort of overflow room kind of thing. And I didn't have particularly many toys, but what I had, I would make use of. Um, so I would, yeah, definitely have lots of scenarios with farm animals and dolls and different things. I also remember I was saying this to somebody only recently, that my senses were so um, vivid that I would be touching and tasting textures and surfaces, to find an understanding of what it was. Um, and it was like, babies put their feet in their mouths, and they start to realize and grow, knowing that they are not there's other things in the world, and then everything goes in their mouth and they're learning. But even as a child, I remember very much tasting things, and thankfully I survived whatever I was eating, or putting, dog biscuits. Oh, my nan had a dog, a golden Labrador. I was like, oh, okay, he's eating it. Why can't I? So I was very experimental. Um, but then I think what then happened was traumatic events happened to me slightly later. Um, and then I fled. I split. I split away. Um, and I don't know how many parts are still, out there. I know that I'm not completely back, and I might not ever be, but I think that was when my imagination started to sort of fall into itself and disappear. And so the sort of body and the emotion wound was so huge, um, that I just didn't know what to do with it. Um, Also, by the time I got to um, sort of early mid-teens, I was about 15. That was the first time that I had a mental health crisis, um, and I was very distressed. I didn't know, I was hallucinating. I wasn't sure what was imagination and what was mental health. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do feel that I have a very deep sense of intuition, and I think my father's side of the family were quite gifted with clairvoyance, and just meeting different energy. And I believe I did have that. I have got that fundamentally. I have a very good intuition normally. Um, but I think by the time I got to 15, and then of course the teenage difficulties, and the art was the drama and music were my outlet. But I was a very, very disturbed young person, actually. And yeah, my imagination was still there, but I was so absorbed in the breaking of me, rather than looking to find ways of that wholeness again. But that was my life process, and you know, I look back now and go, oh gosh, I wish I could give that child, that young person a good talking to and what have you, but we don't have that that power to go back. In recent years, though, you know, imagination is still quite challenging for me because now I've got the menopause brain.
Too. Okay.
And the brain fog
Oh, yes.
and yeah, and the ADHD brain fog. But the imagination of what I do now is working with vocalization in the moment, to not have the expectation, you know, and forward thinking about what you're going to do. I'm really enjoying playing with sound in voice. Um, so what I found in recent years, which has been so liberating as a vocalist, and again, being stuck in a box of, you know, the formulaic way of writing music, you know, it has to, particularly as a young woman in the music industry, um, you know, you've got to look like this, you've got to sound like this, you've got to be stuck in this box. And if you're fortunate enough to get seen by, you know, a scout, A&R, whatever, and get sucked into the label and the, you know, the stripping of one's identity process to fit and conform. I thought that's what I had to do to be a singer and continue, and you know, do the three hit songs and the, you know, the the verse, chorus, middle eight, you know, everything fits. And I never really felt particularly comfortable in that, I have to say. But I didn't know what else was out there, because I was still quite an awkward person in myself, you know, as a performer. Um, but now I realise, through some experience of doing improvisation again, but as a vocalist, not as an actor, I realise how much textural experimentation just from the voice. I mean, as long as you're not, you know, like everything is from diaphragm and body upwards, and it's not from the voice, and you're not straining yourself. But if everything is in place safely for experimentation with voice, there is so much that can be um, story told and spoken. So yeah, the imagery, and also what I find is a lot of colors. So when I'm improvising vocally, I'm seeing colors or symbols, or a deep sense of something, a deep sense of an energy. Sometimes I feel it in the room, sometimes I feel it within. Sometimes I see pictures behind my mind's eye. So, like literally behind my eyelids, I'll see um, silhouettes of either creatures or something. Something will almost certainly come up. Um, so my imagination is different now, but but I think just as vital, just as vital. And I just sitting in the moment and taking away any words. Just allow the words to come if they want to. So just using imagination to be present when it wants to, and how it can be voiced is quite exceptional. And I guess you could do that with any instrument if you were, yeah, yeah, if you were a violinist, a guitarist, a drummer, or anything. You can free form art. You can free form writing. is automatic writing, I think would be, fit into that. So you're just not expecting anything from yourself. You're just sitting in the moment and allowing what's to come. Again, we don't have enough of that in our lives.
No, no. Yes. Oh my goodness. You've got me right where I was headed, actually, where I was learning how to live in the now. I mean, I would say that it's only been with me like the last 3 to 5 years. I've really been learning how to just really be present and embody present, whatever that looks like, without expectation. That's that's been the interesting piece for me. Like, oh, can I sit here without, am I being lazy? You just got to let
Oh,
all that stuff just go through. You've just got to let
yeah,
it all, right?
yeah,
Just go through you.
yeah. That's you've hit something there, because even if you have the intention to be in the moment and to sit still, to be, not to do, to just sit and be, it's very challenging to not allow that, that guilt of sitting and being.
Mhm.
Oh, I should be doing something else, or who am I to sit still for 5 or 10 minutes, where things need to be done, and what might people think? Um,
Yes.
it's crazy what we do to ourselves to rob ourselves of precious time to just be.
Mhm.
And yeah, I recommend to everybody, and not to force it. Just go, you know what, I'm going to have time out, and uh, put those thoughts away that want to stop and hinder you.
Mhm.
Because we're all burnt out at the moment.
Oh gosh.
We're all really stressed. We've got loads of stuff going on in our own lives, with our families, um, with work, juggling stuff, and then the outside, craziness of the world right now. It's very difficult to straddle your own harmonious self, straddle with the external stuff that's going on around us. We can't totally detach ourselves from society or from the world. It's finding that balance of being able to be part in, part out, but not to be absorbed by so much crap that's going on around us.
Yeah, almost to not be attached is some of the way I see it as things. What I've been learning in my own self, and I use my singing bowl. I love singing bowls, and I just sit with I have several of them, but I sit with this one bowl specifically, and she and I have a connection, and it's a she, and I just know it. So, um, and I will hit the singing bowl, and me practicing being in the moment and not attached is just listening to that sound until I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah,
And that has been my practice now
yeah,
for quite a while.
yeah,
Ding.
yeah,
Just sit and listen to it.
yeah,
It's amazing. Like you learn a lot about yourself in that moment because I'm hearing everything else but that, or I'm, what, but the more you do it, the more you practice, the more you realize this is my natural state of being.
yeah,
It really is. We were not created to strive and push and struggle. We actually weren't. The way the global matrix has set itself up to where we're all pushing and striving. I mean, we can only go so far, and I think it creates an implosion and an explosion both within us,
yeah,
which can be good, can be very beneficial. I mean, we can learn from all of that.
sure.
Um, and so I was reading some things that you do, and you're definitely speaking my language about the sound baths and these landscapes, and
Yes.
you've now almost kind of
Yeah.
like moved into being a healer to others. You've
Yeah.
walked through healing yourself, but you're also a healer to others. Can you
Yeah.
just share a little bit of what it is that you do? What does that look like?
So, through this reconnection with improvisation, um, and the liberty that it has brought to me as a performer, as a singer, but also just for my own inner work, um, I yeah, the healing I got or I gained from it has been just so immense. And yes, I've done lots of therapy and I've done lots of different methods of self-care and, you know, self-analysis, I guess. And, I do analyze my behavior as much as I can and, probably too much in my head. But I think just to be calm, much more settled and calm in the moment while improvising. I really wanted to bring that to the community. Um, so what I do is I run workshops for whoever wished to just take the chance and take a risk, actually, because it's so simple, it almost doesn't make sense to a lot of people. It's the most weird dichotomy. We come in, I've created with a collaborator some soundscapes. So there's no melody, it's just a beautiful texture of sound, very often with a nature theme. So there could be bird song or forest sounds or waterfall, whatever the nature theme is, there will be a soundscape that would reflect something of that energy. I would invite um, participants to walk with me in a visualization. Uh, Quite often it becomes quite meditative. So, sorry, that's my dog again, snorting. I promise it's not me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll invite, everything's an invitation. There's no pushing or pulling or um, I'm not tutoring anybody. I'm not expecting anything of anybody. If people want to lie down and listen, they can. If they want to sit and participate, stand, move, um, that's everything is an invitation. But I'll invite also a visualization based on that soundscape with that natural theme. People can take it where they want, and I'll guide if it's necessary. But I'm a participant too, right? So we will all start exploring vocalization. Um, so yeah, it's not coming in learning a song. It's not coming in being a choral group and being in harmony and reading music and being able to come out with again learning something of a piece of music. It is literally a possibility of learning about oneself. And if you don't, it doesn't matter either. Do you see what I mean? There is nothing that is expected of you in that session, in that workshop session. It's just be yourself. If you want to just enjoy the sounds and find yourself being in that, fine. If you want to sing with gusto or work with words or work with something that you've not worked with before, then do it. We're in a safe space. That's all I want to provide is a safe space um, for people to just explore if they want. It's so simple.
Yes.
It's almost like, yeah, but what do you do? Well, I can't explain it more simply. And when I was putting flyers together and some, a little bit of blurb, have you put this in it and have you described it? And well, I've described it as best I can. If people come with expectations and and are disappointed, then okay, but that's not my business really. It's not my responsibility. Um, so yeah, it's been really, really well received.
Mhm.
I'm really enjoying a collaboration presently. I've it's just lovely to have again to go into the studio with a blank canvas. I've got no idea. I've got no thoughts about what should be. There's a few nature sounds that are sort of hovering around that I think, oh, I'd really like to encapsulate something for that. But basically, it's just finding sounds, exploring sounds, and making it as simple as possible. So it's so textural, but not where people will find that if there's a slight melody, then we are going to automatically gravitate towards that melody
Yes.
and may get stuck there. And what I'm inviting participants to do is just work with the slight discomfort of not knowing.
Yes, yes, that's it.
Yeah. And also what has been revealed to me is we're so hung up on what's right and what's wrong. You know, so when you're free forming without a melody, there is no right or wrong. There is no bum note.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, there is no note that you can. So you could be tone deaf. I don't like that term, but you know, lots of people will understand that terminology, whether you know it or not, and you can't hold notes, or you find it challenging to hold notes. Come along. Nobody's going to be judgmental, you know, and it's fun.
Mhm.
It's fun. Um, yeah, so that's a lot to do with um, what I'm bringing.
It's an invitation, is what it feels like to me. It's like I'm inviting you to remember you. I'm
Yeah,
inviting you to remember your soul.
yeah,
And because we've gotten disconnected from our soul, we don't know what we're even exploring. We don't even know what it looks like, but we know when we're in it
yeah,
because we remember, right?
exactly.
And that's what I feel like you're doing is you are inviting people to be in their soul,
Yes.
not be in the mind, when there isn't that melody. I know right now exactly what you're talking about because I've been in workshops where there's a melody and I'm on it. I'm like, and
Yeah,
my mind is connecting, then I'm harmonizing,
yeah,
then my head, and then I'm doing all
yeah,
this.
yeah,
But
yeah,
my gosh, there's something so rich to what you're saying. It's very shamanic, actually. If I can just honor you in this moment, I went and I did ayahuasca, and I was down there for a month in Peru, and at the end of every ayahuasca ceremony, they gave all of us in the dark, we're in the dark, to have an opportunity to sing, like while as we're coming through the medicine. And it was funny because at the very beginning, my first thought was, oh gosh, now it's going to be quiet in the Maloka. Everybody's going to hear me. I mean, I'm in the dark. Nobody can see you, right? You're all in the dark. You've all been through this like wild experience. And I began to connect with myself in a way I had never connected before. And there were sounds I was making and things that were coming from gosh, I'm tearing up right now thinking about it, so deep, so roots. And
yeah. The hairs on my body
it's
are standing
happening
up just
now.
listening to you. Yeah, it's
And
powerful
because
stuff.
I connected with something, it was off limits of what it looked like. Everything was, non-negotiable. Be yourself, do what you want. You're in the dark. And it was amazing what came forth in that. And so I just started
Thank you.
singing these things that I have never sung before in my life with my little singing bowl. Me and that little singing bowl.
That's so beautiful, and
And you can't go back and redo it. That's the thing. It's like in the moment.
yes,
But I remember I came back, and after that incident, I had to arrive back in the States before I came to the UK. And I was like, I'm going to try to see if I can get that back. Where, no, because it was for that moment and that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, there will be other moments that will be important if that will hit something and resonate inside, but they will be different. They will have a different energy and a different feel and a different purpose. But for you in that moment,
Oh,
after that experience, that was part of the experience. That was the sort of the letting out, and allowing to be. Um, there is something quite beautiful about your experience, which again, using your voice and finding sounds there that you'd never thought were possible. And we all have that. We all have that. Uh, but don't have the opportunity to find it. So yeah, it's a powerful thing. It is.
it's such
And all the energy, all that I believe in. We are energetic beings. Our energy is quite vast actually around us. And when you're in the room with people together, and you're in that, it's sort of it. There are moments that are so sacred in the workshops because there's no planning it, but there is a convergence often with voices and the intention come together. And you can't plan that. It just happens. It's like a communal experience. We're communing together, even though we weren't planning to do that. And then there's this crescendo, and then there's light and shade and flow, and yes, sometimes there are silences. And again, we're so frightened of silence in society. We find it really difficult to be in quiet, or in a room we've all always got to talk and find something to say. Well, sometimes really good stuff happens and shifts in that silence, that suspended place where anything comes. And what I guess what I imagine is happening, you know, we're all coming through to that room, so we're going through the threshold. It's like a hero's journey. In sound healing or whatever, there is a process that we start as we are outside, and then we move through the threshold, and the liminal space is where things can change and happen, and they're really quite sacred, and they can be so simple. They don't have to be really complicated stuff. It can be the simplest thing, as long as there's a will to allow the luminosity to work its magic, to be able to explore, I guess. And then in that sacred space, you exit changed. It's a bit like the hero's journey. You start off in the village as one person, but you go off and you have all these challenges and these experiences that begin to shift things, make you stronger, maybe, heal in adversity. The journey's never easy.
no.
Yeah, there are challenges that we have to go through. We can't. There's no easy shortcuts.
No.
But in that space, sacred stuff happens, and then you move, and then you find yourself in a newness, maybe still broken, but there's a newness and a more empowerment and strength that when you go back, you are different. And having opportunity, music really brings that.
Yes.
Possibility, or it sets the scene to invitation. So yeah, there is lots of excitement with them. Again, it can be anybody. Anybody can participate. I do certain work with women. So I'm doing a women's day retreat actually in Oxfordshire on summer solstice. So that's a lovely sort of a lovely day to celebrate the brightness of light and yeah, the summer season of just brightness and flourishing. And that's going to be specifically women's.
Oh, I'm suddenly coughing. I'm making sound. Okay.
So there will be specific workshops for women. The women's retreat is very open to all kinds of women. It will have some arty activities and playful activities, and it's on a very beautiful site near Whitnham Clumps. So there's a lot of ancient history on that land, and it's where I'll be running the workshop is very, very close to the ley lines, the Mary and Michael currents that meet, very, very close. So on summer solstice, it's sort of reconnecting with the land, having playful activities, sharing a meal together, share a meal together, and then I'll be doing some vocalization with nature and sound. But I also have a absolute determination to work with women specifically, and if there's a demand or a calling for male groups as well, I may consider that, but particularly for women who are have been in very difficult circumstances, but I'm sort of pinpointing narcissistic abuse, because it's something that I have experience of, and I have experience of other traumas, but I think there's so many layers of complexity with surviving from this kind of manipulation, coercive behavior, and it's not considered enough actually in society, but the repercussions of it and the imprint of that trauma is just as profoundly difficult for the abused as it would be a physical or sexual or mental abuse. So I feel very strongly about these workshops in the future that will be, a safe space, again, a safe space for women that are survivors of this horrible awfulness, to just again be.
Yes.
And an invitation to take a break from the processing of it from here, and to just be in a safe space with other like-minded souls who are understanding of this particular challenge, and also find voice.
Yes.
find voice in it, because so often with being on the brunt of this behavior, a lot of um, a lot of people that have experienced it don't know they're experiencing it, weirdly, until things really begin to unravel. And by the time it unravels, they're very embedded in this abuse. So it's a very complex thing that I've learnt. I think what I've learnt from it is my experience from my childhood is, my father has narcissistic behaviors, and they're very obvious. I love him dearly, but he's a very complex person. But he's very outwardly, noticeably affected by this challenge of NPD. He's also extremely violent, can be, and I'm being very open about this because it's not really talked enough of. And yes, the aggression that literally comes from this human being is obvious, and the manipulation and the grandiose and the world owes me everything, and everybody else is to blame, and the manipulation has been very challenging over the years, from a young person, from a child growing, and my sibling has experienced more of this than I, but we are both damaged by it, and I think it needs to be spoken out a lot more, because narcissistic parents, the conflict of loyalty as a child to one's parent, and love, and need of love, but yet knowing that this person is extremely damaging, is very conflicting, and it's very difficult moving through that process. And very recently I've had, again, I didn't see it. I was so, because it was a different form of narcissism. I just thought narcissism was, this. It looked like this, and yeah, it was horrifying, and extremely distressing. Yes, Lolly, it was. Yeah. So yeah, and my learning through it, and my process of my self-analysis, why did I allow this person to do that to me? How did I not see the signs? And I constantly thinking I was the one that was responsible for what was happening, but gaslighting really,
Oh yes, yeah.
it causes confusion. It's purposeful, it's cunning.
Yes.
And so the layers of manipulation, gaslighting, lying, and what have you, is, well, you just don't know your thoughts anymore. You're doubting your instincts. You're doubting your gut. But things very recently came to such a head that I thought, no, I can't not listen anymore. I have to confront. And of course, that confrontation was very distressing. But it took me some time to unravel it all, and go, oh,
Mhm.
I was trying myself to be accountable to my behaviors. I was taking responsibility for my behaviors. Of
Yes.
course, I'm still learning and not perfect. I am definitely not perfect.
I know you're not.
But you know, if somebody on the sharp end of that isn't getting you know, accountability, respect, um, responsibility, their responsibility, and also realizing and changing, a lot of narcissistic personality disordered people will not recognize that there is a difficulty within themselves that needs to be to be shifted. It's always about who
Yes.
they're abusing. So
Oh my goodness. I feel like I could unpack this. This is like for a whole
yeah,
other interview
yeah.
talking about this topic, which I'd be willing to do with you actually, because it's
I'd love to.
big,
I'd love to,
so big.
Ellen.
And with the rise of, yes,
Oh,
Donald Trump,
absolutely.
this has been
Absolutely. Lack of
crazy.
accountability,
Yeah,
lack of responsibility.
absolutely.
I totally get it. But you can also understand that a lot of people, and also the word narcissist is so overused as
Oh, it
well. It's
is.
like trauma. It
Yes,
kind of, it belittles those that really have had trauma. It belittles those that have been abused by narcissism,
sure.
actually. And it's got to stop,
Mhm.
because egocentric people are egocentric people, and we all have an ego. Sometimes it peaks and it troughs, you know, right? Okay. And that is, you know, problematic behavior, right? But when you're talking about all the different threads of narcissism, it's dangerous.
Hmm.
It's dangerous behavior, because we're also possibly going into the realms of psychopathy and, you know, sociopaths. So I'm not saying all of MPD are, for sure, you know, but it's a very complex picture. And so working with women in this form, I think, you know, one, it's not spoken enough, and the abused are not being supported enough,
Mhm. Mhm.
because, you know, they're not being heard, because the difficulty also is narcissistic personality. Yeah, they come across as kind, caring, um, you know, altruistic. Um, you know, they're often come across as victims themselves. Um, so they have this wonderful persona, you know, oh, they're fragile, they're needy, you know, whatever. So they've orchestrated this wonderful persona that masks actually their calculation, their manipulation, and their absolute determination to bring you down if you are on their radar, to be the next victim.
Mhm.
And because um, victims aren't taken seriously, because, you know, you must be imagining it, it's gaslighting again, because, oh, but that person's got this wonderful, he's a, or she, because let's face it, it happens both. This person is just so delightful and beautiful and charismatic, and yes, fragile, and they've got trauma and they've got this or that, but no, that can't be, you've got that wrong. So that actually compounds the traumatic experience by not being believed, as we know that's a contributor to not being able to move from trauma.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's not just the incident itself or incidents, it's the actual, like, no voice and not believed. So I'm determined to have a space for. And because I'm a woman, having experience, I predominantly want to work with women at the moment.
I understand.
But yeah, so
Oh my gosh, this is for a whole other, I really want to dive into this with you. I am looking at the clock though, and
yeah.
want to honor your time. But we'll do another one and we'll talk about this because it is something that yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's showing itself really even bigger on the global stage in a long while.
Yeah. And I don't think, this is not going to go away. In fact, it's going to, yeah, explode much more. And we all know that mental health is much more widespread now. You know, there's a lot, which is great in a way because people are being able to talk, that they feel that they can talk about it more in the workplace or with their families or, you know, with their friends. Also, you know, we are very fractured in society, you know, in our families, in society itself. We don't have much structures of community anymore.
Sure.
So again, this is a very complex challenge for us all, actually. But yeah, the narcissistic issue, I think, will present itself very heavily in the coming months and years, as we sadly have viewed already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So because I have to wrap this up, I want to say, first of all, I just want to honor your processes and your journey of overcoming, of finding your light, of finding your spark, of finding your voice, reclaiming you. Like that's really what this has been, right? It's been a
Yeah.
reclamation of yourself.
Yeah.
And then I love how we transitioned into how someone such as myself or someone sitting here or whoever can do these things to connect with themselves.
Yeah.
And so I just want to take the last few minutes. Can you just give us some tips, some ways that people can connect with what you've been speaking about within themselves? That the vocalization or the being, or can you give us just a few tips before we close here?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I for me, and it might be very helpful to those out there that are listening that find it very difficult to meditate. I know I can't meditate because I have an ADHD brain where there's multiple things going on in my brain, lots of conversations and music. I've got multiple loops of music going on in my head. Plus, I have trauma still in my body. So to sit quietly with myself is excruciatingly painful. And also, I fill myself with guilt because I can't do it properly. I can't sit quietly. And but what I have found very useful is meditation can come, or those quiet moments of to be with oneself can take so many different forms and it's still meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I find it's easier if I'm doing something quite methodical, like gardening. And quite often I will be singing or talking to myself because I'm moving.
Mm-hmm.
I can chant, or I can just say a phrase. I can just speak a phrase out multiple times. Doesn't have to be even in song. So something of a task. I also do wood carving, and the method of, you know, just hammering a piece of wood with a tool is quite satisfying.
Yes.
But it also, I'm in a zone where I'm just concentrating because I don't want to obviously give myself injury either. So I think it's just not worrying about what, again, this expectation of what you should be doing in meditation. If you want to find silence or quiet, then make that how you want it to be.
Absolutely.
Sing to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
chant to yourself, if you're out in a garden, and there's still words going on in your head, there's still the chatter, don't worry about it. Just every now and then, focus on the bird song or the wind brushing against your face, or the feeling of the grass on your feet, and walking around barefoot. I mean, it's a bit chilly now, but just grounding yourself and visualization of being grounded, um, sets the scene for just being, at peace with oneself, even if it's momentarily, even if you can get a minute. That's precious, isn't it? If I can stop my brain for a minute, ka-ching! I've yes, result.
Yes. Oh my goodness, you are a delight.
And so are you. It's been so lovely to talk to you.
You,
So like easy.
I'm so glad. I'm really glad. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you about these retreats and things?
Okay, so retreats are coming in. So I'm still getting confirmations as we speak, but there's definitely information on my Facebook page, which is Avoca Holistic, AVOCAHOLISTIC. Avoca is a Celtic word for the meeting of rivers. So it's the flow, flow of things going. Yeah. So it's the Avoca Holistic on Facebook and Instagram. It's the same. It's the same thing. Or you can contact me at avocaholistic@gmail.com, and I can give you info. But basically, there's lots of updates on
Perfect.
where to find me. I'm in Cornwall, Avebury, Glastonbury, Oxfordshire, Norfolk, possibly Leamington Spa, Totnes. There's all sorts of destinations, and the workshops for specifically for the women recovering from narcissistic abuse. They're yet to come and be confirmed, but they're very likely going to be in Oxfordshire. But if again there's a calling for other destinations, I'm more than happy to look at that. I want to bring this out to the community widespread. So nothing is off the table there. I can work with it.
Okay. All right. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Lovely.
being here today. And um, yeah, so it's been a real pleasure. So everybody, I'm going to be putting the replay link in Instagram. It'll come up in a few hours or so, and then you can catch it. I want to say again to you, it's just been a real pleasure, Lou, having you here.
Thank you.
It's the
Thank you for
wisdom,
having me.
wisdom, my goodness, the wisdom and the insight and the knowledge, but the simplicity for all of us that it's within us too, that same wisdom and knowledge and, the intuition. So thank you for everything. And we will be
Thank
in
you.
touch because I am going to do another one with you. We are.
Yeah, looking forward to it already.
We will. We will. But thank you. And thank you to your dog who was snoring as well. It was a blessing. There you are. Oh my goodness. What an adorable, adorable dog. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.